Philadelphia. It's a nice place to come for a European because it's East Coast, it's a city, we still get a little bit of a suburban feel. I feel like there's just a lot of culture, a lot of history here.
Well, they all just want to go to the Rocky steps and like do the whole Rocky punch the air thing. So that's what they're excited about. But it's one of my favorite races of the year, so I've definitely pumped them up for it.
It's so cool to have like the prime time, you know, oftentimes it's always the women's race and then the men's race, and the crowds are, you know, growing as the women are racing, but like it's not like prime time. So this time it's neat. It's neat to be like the focus.
I've been riding on the circuit these days, and a lot of people were stopping us and cheering for us, asking for pictures and saying, "Hey girls, on Sunday we will be there for you." And it's such a nice feeling.
American fans just get excited that you're in it, and they don't know a lot about the history of cycling, which sometimes can be to our benefit. So it's just an amazing atmosphere if you're in first place or you're at the back.
Well, we all race together all the time in Europe, but this kind of a field hasn't come to America before ever, I think, so it's pretty exciting.
Hello and welcome to round 6 of the World Cup series. We're in Philadelphia with its brutal, short, sharp climbs for the Philadelphia Classic. Here's how things stand after 5 rounds, and it's worth noting the top 3 in the standings are not at this race. So all eyes then on the riders in 4th and 5th place, Elisa Longo-Borghini and Lizzie Armitstead, both of whom will fancy a win on this circuit. There's Lizzie Armitstead's teammate, Evelyn Stevens, who's won this race for the last 2 years, alongside Megan Garnier. That's Kirsten Wild there for High Tech, who's not perhaps ideally suited to this race, but Lizzie Armitstead, who you just caught a glimpse of there, chewing gum, looking very calm at the start, will fancy her chances here, Rochelle.
Well, it's a different race to it used to be. When I've done it a couple of times, it was more traditionally a sprinter's race, finishing midway through the circuit on the flat, but now it finishes on top of the Manayunk Wall, which is a very, very tough climb.
Off they go then, out onto the circuit. That's the start-finish line there, called Petchin Street, at the top of the Manayunk Wall climb. At the far end of the circuit, there's another climb at Sedgley Drive called Lemon Hill, and then they head back again to the start-finish line. 6 laps in total at about 19.8 kilometres per lap, and a total race distance of 115 kilometre. And they are racing from the start, full of intent and little gaps appearing. So they're taking the race by the scruff of the neck from the gun here, Rochelle.
They certainly have gone out hard and strung it out, and I think there's a lot of excited bike riders here because it's such a wonderful atmosphere. The race has been going for a very, very long time, but to have it a World Cup now, the first World Cup back in the USA since 2001, I think these riders, I mean, it's the strongest field that we've seen in the USA for a very, very long time.
And it hasn't always been the race that we are going to see today, where it finishes on Manayunk Wall. It used to be more of a sprinter's circuit, didn't it?
Traditionally, it's known as a sprinter's race. For so many years, Petra Rosner won it 7 years, Ina Joko Teutenberg won it 5 years. Now you see the riders are going up Manayunk Wall, so this is the hardest part of the race, and the finish line at the top. It makes a huge difference to this type of race.
300 metres to go on this climb. It does go on a bit. It peaks out at something like 17% this climb, as the riders just testing their legs for the first time of 6 in total ascents of the Manayunk Wall before it just flattens out towards the start-finish line. That you can see the bunch coming through now. That's Lizzie Armitstead there in second wheel, and already you can see, even though they're not racing hard on this first time round, there are gaps appearing.
Well, you can see there the finish line. It is after the crest of the hill, so you get to the top. For a sprinter, that's going to be the finish line every single time, and then it just flattens out a little bit for 100 metres.
Now then, the first attack of the day. That looks like it's one of the, it's Jasmine Glaesser, I believe the Canadian rider, who's testing the intent of the bunch behind her to see what sort of a gap she can get.
Well, she's a handy little bike rider. She's very young, at 22 years of age. She's already won a bronze medal at the London Olympics. She was a part of that Canadian Team's Pursuit team that ran 3rd when the British team won the gold medal there. So she's got a lot of credentials to her name already, and she looks very comfortable on the bike, and she's just getting into a rhythm there, so it looks like she might be set to be out there for a little while.
Getting nice and low to the frame, getting herself in a time trial position essentially, and getting herself into an aerodynamic position to see how far up the road she can get. It's a little bit strung out though, which would indicate that the pace at the front of the bunch is high, as they won't want to allow her too much slack at the front of this race. They won't really want anybody on a testing circuit like this to get too far up the road, will they?
Well, I think this is a name, Jasmine Glaesser, that they're not that familiar with, the Europeans. The Americans certainly will be, but the Americans are probably more relaxed and thinking we'll bring this one back mid-race or towards the end of the race. But she's a handy little bike rider. You can see there that the peloton's very relaxed, coming into Manayunk Wall for the second time.
Yeah, that was Glaesser going up Manayunk Wall there. Oh, it looks a struggle as she hits the steepest part of the climb, but she still has a lead. And with 300 metres to go now until she passes through for the second time of 6 laps, it looks like the bunch is relatively happy with the gap that she's got. You can see there Taylor Wiles just bobbing and weaving at the front of the bunch, controlling the tempo. Everything pretty much measured here. There doesn't look too much panic at this stage about the kind of lead that Glaesser's got.
Well, that is Taylor Wiles there from Velocio SRAM. And on the left of your screen, we saw Tiffany Cromwell, also Velocio SRAM. So they're controlling the race, and it's possible that they're riding for Elena Emalusic today, because we've already seen Taylor Wiles and Tiffany Cromwell be very well positioned towards the front for Velocio SRAM.
Okay, Jasmine Glaesser through the start-finish line for the second time. And that climb has taken something out of her, I would imagine. You can see just in the background there, the helmet's just emerging over the crest of that hill, and indeed the bunch is not too far behind. 30 seconds now the gap, with Wiggle Honda, one of the teams, and Bulls Dolmans obviously there. They're the two big teams here who we have to keep an eye on, aren't they?
Yeah, there's a lot of rivalry this year in the World Cup Series between the Bulls Dolmans team and the Wiggle Honda team. Obviously, Wiggle Honda have won 3 of the 5 World Cups, but in this race, Bulls Dolmans have a very strong team. It's a small team of 4, but having Megan Gagne, who recently won the national championships, Evelyn Stevens, who's won this race on the top of Manayunk Wall for the previous 2 years, and then Lizzie Armitstead, who won the World Cup Series last year, a favourite for today's race on this type of punchy climb finish. It's a very, very strong team from Bulls Dolmans.
65 kilometres to go then for our leader, and this is the first glimpse that we've had so far of the climb at the far end of the circuit as she makes her way up Lemon Hill to the enthusiastic greeting from the American crowd there who've gathered to see her go over the top. Now, is this an attempt to win the race, or is she scooping up Queen of the Mountains points?
Well, she's just crossed that line for the Queen of the Mountains points, and I think she'll be quite pleased about that and very, very motivated now to pick up more points, because there's such big prize money on the Queen of the Mountains competition today. She's picked up some points there. It's $5,000 to win that prestigious Queen of the Mountains jersey today. So she's got a little lead in that competition, and I'm sure she'll be thinking about that for the rest of the race.
So a couple of riders have gone off the front of that bunch as they go over Lemon Hill, but she's riding a very aggressive and very smart race, because, as you say, the prize money is very decent, both for the sprints competition and for the Queen of the Mountains. As another attack just goes off the right-hand side, that looks like it's one of the 2016, the US development team riders.
Well, she's actually a fellow Canadian, so she's going across to meet up with Jasmine Glaesser, maybe give her a little bit of help. They'll certainly know each other, so when they get together, they could be a very dangerous duo.
Well, she's got to get there first. Last time we saw that was a 47-second gap, which would take some riding across, wouldn't it, at that pace? But it looks like, yeah, that's it. That's Glaesser in view. So 2 Canadians potentially working together to build a lead. Doesn't seem to make too much obvious sense why a Canadian would be riding for a US development team.
Well, 2016 is a development team. It's all in function of the Rio Olympics and developing track riders, road riders and paracyclists as well. So to see a Canadian rider on that team, it is a little bit confusing, but perhaps it's a rider with experience that can educate the other development riders. We see Velocio SRAM now. It's Taylor Wiles again. She's been very active for Velocio SRAM on the front of the peloton today.
And then there it is. She's made the junction. So Alison Jackson now joins Glaesser. So Jackson and Glaesser now will look to work together, and there was a little conversation there. They're going to collaborate, aren't they?
I think they are. Back to your comment before, Ned, about the prize money. This is a unique race where they do put so much emphasis on Queen of the Mountains and the sprints. They're both $5,000 each, those competitions to win. $5,000 to win the actual race. A total prize purse of $35,000 just for the women. One of the very few races, maybe the only one, where there's equal prize money for the women and the men.
All right. That's a statement of intent from this race, and great respect to them for doing that. Right, up Manayunk Wall now for the 3rd time, and it looks like Glaesser's effort has come to an end, and Jackson indeed is about to be gobbled up by the bunch being led at the moment by Velocio SRAM and Taylor Wiles and Tiff Cromwell. So that's the end of those 2, and it's all come back together again as they go up. This is the halfway point of this race, the 3rd lap. They're coming up to the top, and the big teams have the race for the time being just where they want it. But on the other hand, if they all come over together, They're going to be watching each other like hawks to see who's going to attack next and how seriously they're going to have to take it.
Well, I think we're going to see the business start now. I think this is Katie Hall from United Healthcare going over the top, applying a little bit of pressure. She'll be doing that for her teammate. Going for the points there. You see she crossed the line, wants to be in the mix for the Queen of the Mountains points. Tiffany Cromwell to the left of your screen. Always a really, really tough little racer.
As a Brazilian national champion as well for the Ale Cipollini team. We've got quite a few national champions represented here. The national champion of Luxembourg also just going through. There's Lizzie Armstead. You can see a flash of the Union Jack on her shoulder to indicate she's a former British national champion. Now here's an attack. This is Taylor Wiles, isn't it?
Again, she's been riding very, very aggressively and controlling this race from the front. I mean, being an American and having this race on home soil, I think the crowd lifts. She was speaking earlier before the race about how much atmosphere there is in this race, and I think that it's a very important race for her to do well, and she's certainly been very active today.
52 kilometres to go now as they go up Lemon Hill for the fourth time, and it looks like that attack from Taylor Wiles didn't stick either. It's so difficult to get away when the bunch is in this kind of a mood. And up they go, up Lemon Hill.
We just got a glimpse of the British rider, Hannah Barnes. I think she's cresting this Lemon Hill very aggressively. She wants to do something for the United Healthcare team here today. Not specifically suited to this type of course. She's more a crit rider and a sprinter, but she has been very active as well. Oh, we have a crash there.
There's one rider down. That's Jessica Kerr from 2016, getting herself back up on her feet as well, but whether she'll be able to remount and get in the race is a moot point. Just coming to grief there on that left-handed turn at the foot of Lemon Hill. That is Hannah Barnes now, off the front of the race. As you say, she's more suited to a flat, short track, not a longer form race like this, but she's developing as a rider, isn't she? She's a great prospect, really.
Well, absolutely. She's here in a World Cup midway through the race, and she's putting the pressure on the other teams and trying to force a break there. She's got a very, very strong rider with her, Charlotte Becker from the High Tech Products team. They want to get a breakaway today. This is forming a very, very strong break. Lauren Rowney, the Australian, riding for Velocio Stram, also in there.
Yeah, you could see though, they were looking over their shoulders and the organisation wasn't quite there, the commitment wasn't quite there, and they just weren't allowed ultimately to get away. 43 kilometres now as they head back up to Manayunk Wall, and each time they go over this climb, as Wiggle Honda start to ride very prominently now alongside Bulls Dolmans.
Well, we saw Amelia Farland riding very, very hard into the bottom of that climb, and it is very important for the teams to be well positioned at the bottom of the climb, because once you get onto the climb, it's hard to improve your position. It's so steep, you want to be onto that climb at the front. So Wiggle Honda had their domestique, Amelia Farland, taking Elisa Longo Borghini. We saw Georgia Bronzini in there. We haven't seen much of Mara Abbott from the Wiggle Honda team today, but this is certainly an important race for her as well. Bowles Dolman's there, also coming to the front. Gagne in the blue, that's the National Championship jersey of America, and next to her, Evelyn Stevens.
And Hannah Barnes, who was in that little move earlier on off the back of Lemon Hill and got reeled in, is still very prominent at the front end of that race. And as you say, for a sprinter, she's showing impressive form over these climbs. In fact, there she is leading the whole bunch over the start-finish line for the fourth time. And they go out, they will have 2 laps of this 19.8 kilometre circuit to do after this.
This is the United Healthcare team. We haven't seen much of them in Europe, but they're a very dominant team here in the USA. And we see that they've got some very strong riders with Corinne Rivera. She was second at the National Championship road race to Megan Guarnier this year. And here they are training. They're very well known, United Healthcare, for developing their young riders. I think a very important part of that is getting them together for training camps. We see Katie Hall there. She's an important rider for her lead riders here in Philadelphia, and also we saw her do a fabulous job at the National Championships for Corinne Rivera, who was second, and she's in the jersey there of the National Criterium Championship, which she won last year.
Let's do that then.
Here's the Blue Train. They're known when they come over to Europe as the Blue Train. Some very strong riders. We'd like to see a lot more of them in Europe, but they're busy dominating in the American domestic scene right now. So that's Alexis Ryan, a very exciting rider of the future. She's won junior national championships in track, road, mountain bike, cyclocross, criterium. So a very exciting rider. That's Rachel Heal. She's the manager of the United Healthcare team. And this is Hannah Barnes from the UK, and what a sensational sprinter she is. She's joined this team a couple of years ago, United Healthcare, based herself in America, won some very exciting races. This year already a couple of UCI races outside of Europe, but we're all waiting to see what Hannah Barnes can do when she makes that step over to Europe.
Now we rejoin the action with 37 kilometres remaining and just under 2 circuits of the Philadelphia Classic still to ride, and it's High Tech who take things up in large numbers at the front of the bunch with 3 riders represented, but there's an attack on their blind side, and that looks like that's Tiff Cromwell from Velocio SRAM. How far up the road can she get? She's taking a High Tech rider with her, just ever so briefly there, using
a little bit of help from the motorbike there. Well, Tiffany Cromwell's just a really exciting rider. She's always having a go, and she'll be trying to soften things up for Elena Amalusic. So taking some bottles here. It's been a very, very hot day here in Philadelphia, so this is the last feed they'll get with 1.5 laps to go.
It looks like those two were not allowed to get up the road. And the peloton is all back together as they head towards Lemon Hill for the 5th time. This is the penultimate lap, and there is Lemon Hill. Let's see what happens at the front of this race now. Now that looks like a rider going for the Queen of the Mountains competition.
That's Jasmine Glaesser. She's had a fantastic ride. We saw her off the front out solo earlier in the race, but she's made it a priority here to pick up those points for the QOM jersey, which we have said is worth $5,000 today. She looks like with 1 lap to go that she might have that competition in the bag.
That's the far end of the circuit, Lemon Hill. They have 1 more ascent of that climb to go and twice more up the Manayunk Wall. Right, here's a little move going off the front.
Well, that's Lauren Rowney from Velocio SRAM, so they've had a very aggressive race. Perhaps they do want to force a breakaway, joined by Charlotte Becker, another Velocio SRAM rider, Taylor Wiles. She's been very aggressive today, and also Carmen Small of the 2016 team. This is a very strong breakaway of 4 riders.
Boels Doelmans and Wiggle Honda will be working hard to bring that back. 20 seconds is an uncomfortable amount on the penultimate lap, and they're dangerous riders.
Taylor Wiles there just talking into the radio. It's worth saying that 3 of those riders were a part of the Specialised Lululemon team last year, who won the team time trial at the World Championships. But we think they've been caught now. Yes, it's Amelia Farland of Wiggle Honda, just riding very hard into the last time before they have 1 lap to go up Manayunk Wall.
Now, Rochelle, take a look at this right-hander, because when they come round for the final time on the last lap, that is going to be critical as they hit the bottom of this climb, that positioning there, isn't it?
Absolutely, but look at this, Megan Gagne, one of the favourites for today for the Boels Doelmans team, recently won that beautiful jersey at the National Championships of the USA, and closely followed by Evelyn Stevens, who's taking over now, so the Boels Doelmans team are really putting the pressure down.
Indeed, this is I don't think it's a race-winning move, but it's a race-softening move, isn't it? They're just testing legs now, seeing what everyone's got.
Well, Evelyn Stevens is really digging deep. We've said she's won the last 2 years on this climb, but it's Elisa Longo Borghini who's just propped onto the wheel there. She's able to follow it, and they're just testing their legs. You can see just behind them also Elena Amalusic from Velocio SRAM, and Lizzie Armistead moves to the front for Boels Doelmans. So all 3 of the Boels Doelmans team there testing the legs on the second last time up Manayunk Wall.
Well, they'll be hearing the bell when they come through the start-finish line, and they know that just 19.8 kilometres remain of this race when they pass through it, and the race is on. That is the first we've really seen of Lizzie Armistead, though, at the front of the race. She's obviously feeling strong today.
Well, it's very confusing about who their lead rider might be at Boels, because they've got the 2 Americans on home soil wanting to win the biggest race in their country, both on really fantastic form. And then you've got Lizzie Armistead, who won the World Cup Series last year and clearly now riding over the top on the front of the peloton in fine form. So if you were the Boels Doelmans teams, who would be the lead rider for today?
Surely the 2 big teams here, Wiggle Honda and Boels Doelmans, need to take advantage of the fact that a number of the strongest teams in women's cycling haven't come to this race.
Well, it's a huge surprise, Ned, that Rabobank, why they're not here. Also Orica AIS and Liv Plantua, big teams of women's cycling, not here present in Philadelphia.
As Lotte Becker, who was in that little move of 4 riders that we saw on the penultimate circuit, she just goes off the front now, testing things out, seeing how far she can go. She's been extremely aggressive throughout the race today, and she's got a significant engine, and they won't want her to get too much distance up the road, especially with Lemon Hill to break things up, and then that fast run in back towards the last climb up Manayunk Wall. They're taking a close eye on her, aren't they, in the back there?
Yeah, I think they're keeping her in check. She's a very, very strong rider, and has a very strong history of good time trial results, so she'll just get into her rhythm there. But the High-Tech Products team are predominantly a sprint team, and they've got Kirsten Wield back in the peloton, but they wouldn't fancy their chances on Manayunk Wall today, so they definitely would like to have a breakaway. Kirsten Wield, she won a really big race two days ago in Canada. She lost the last World Cup in China to Georgia Bronzini, which would have been a bit disappointing for the High-Tech Products team, but today they're trying to get somebody up the road.
And they have got someone up the road. 30 seconds the gap there over the top of Lemon Hill, as that looks like Jasmine Glaesser again, just sealing the points. I don't know if she's already clinched them, but she's just making sure of the Queen of the Mountains competition here, and she's taking one of the High-Tech riders with her over the top.
Well, she has owned Lemon Hill today and really earned that QOM jersey. But it's Charlotte Becker for High-Tech Products. We see Tiffany Cromwell and Megan Gagne chasing this move down. I think they will want to bring that back pretty quickly, because Charlotte Becker, she is a strong rider, and they certainly don't want to just let a sole rider get away. There she is. She's just being caught, but it's Ale Cipollini on the attack.
Yeah, one of the very, very visible riders of Ale Cipollini in their Dayglow kit, taking advantage of what was possibly a little lull in the action when they knew that Becker was going to be caught. Perhaps some of the pace went off the front of the bunch, and she's decided to have a go. And why not? Some good aggressive riding from her. But you'd have thought with that bunch is a lot smaller than it was. That looks like it's down to, what, 35 riders other than 96 who started?
Yeah, she's looking over her shoulder, Muccioli, but she's having a fantastic ride for Ale Cipollini just to be there in the mix of it. They've come all the way over from Italy, a very, very dominant team in the European racing circuit, so to see them out there having a go. But now we see what's happening. Velocio Schramm has said, okay, it's all business now for Elena Amalusic. They've got Taylor Wiles on the front, Majuris for the Bowles-Dolmans team, Lauren Rowney, Tiffany Cromwell.
Setting things up for the final action here. 1.5 kilometres remaining as they head towards that critical right-hand turn at the foot of the climb. And here they are on the climb. And that's one of the United Healthcare riders. Katie Hall has gone off the front there, but her effort is not going to last too much longer, as the heat is really, the hammer's going down here at the bottom of the climb, and there's riders all over this road. It's hard to pick out who's going to make the move, and what is really significant is where are the big favourites. We've got to be looking at Armitstead and Longo Borghini in particular. Where are they? They're biding their time. There's not too much of this climb remaining. With 300 metres to go, when are the favourites going to show their hand?
Well, Longo Borghini, she's right there. She's looking over her shoulder for Lizzie Armitstead and the Bowles-Dolmans team, but Lizzie's right there on the wheel. Elisa Longo Borghini, here she is going over the top of the climb, over the front, but it's Lizzie Armitstead. She's got a bit of punch.
Armitstead has found the space on the rails there. She comes off Longo Borghini's wheel, and full commitment to the line. Armitstead takes the win by a couple of bike lengths in the end to Longo Borghini. It looked like that was Amalusic in third place, the Belarusian, and indeed Shelley Oles in fourth. But the two class acts of this race have prevailed on the day. Armitstead takes the win from Longo Borghini in second place. They liked the race hard. This course suited them. In particular, Armitstead, she takes the congratulations of her teammate there, and she's delivered when it mattered, hasn't she, Rochelle? A brilliant win.
Absolutely. She took things into her own hands. She was the only one that was able to stay on the wheel of Elisa Longo Borghini today, halfway up the climb when Elisa hit it. She put herself in the right position, and she knew when it flattened out, she could come off the wheel.
So, confirmation of the order across the line then. Lizzie Armitstead in first place, Longo Borghini in second. That was Amalusic in third place, and Shelley Oles in fourth. No doubt about the winner though. Top step of the podium for Bowles-Dolmans and Lizzie Armitstead, enjoying the applause and the appreciation of a big crowd here in Philadelphia. And there's the top three, and delight on the face of Lizzie Armitstead, and probably a bit of relief. It's her second win in the World Cup Series, and I wonder if that's going to change her attitude towards how she competes overall. Let's have a look at the standings now, because that one win there has bounced her right up the table into the overall lead. But just 19 points separating the first two, with 4 rounds of the World Cup remaining. There's all to play for as Lizzie Armitstead pulls on the leader's jersey. She won this competition, of course, last year, and now with the leader's jersey she might well be looking to defend.
The plan was for me to go for the win as well up until the 5th lap, and I said to the girls, look, I'm not in the best shape to do this. Evie's riding around looking so easy, so we wanted to go for her, and yeah, in the final it didn't work out, and you have to race on instinct. That's what we're always taught, so I went for it. It's always nice to be able to race in this jersey. It's an honour. It's something that you only experience a few times in your career, and I'm very proud to wear it.
Our Suffer Prize winner this round is Lotte Becker. She rode a really aggressive race and was always on or near the front or pushing to try and get away. She was in a couple of breaks, one of 4 riders that got a good gap on the penultimate lap, and when that was reeled in, she tried again on the last lap, riding away from the pack and finishing off her race with an impressive solo effort.
And there we go, Charlotte Becker is our Suffer Prize winner.
Well, that's it from Philadelphia. The World Cup Series goes into a brief summer hiatus and we'll pick it up again on the 2nd of August in Germany.